Yo, what is going on, guys? J.Yumeko here, and today we're back with some more Cinderella phenomenon. Last time we left off, we desperately tried to get our brother to help us break our curse. Well, our stepbrother, to be more precise, but he was very adamant in not doing that. So, we'll see if he budges any more on that matter. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into it. Let's continue. Here we go. Rod, chapter 3. So it looks like it says common root, and looks like now I'm finally heading down a particular route, which is Rod's. So let's go ahead and do that one. I'll ask Rod if he can pair up with me. I know we do not have a good relationship. Rod has spared no effort in telling me how cruel I've been to his family. But I feel that rectifying whatever mistakes I made with them might be an easy way to get 3 good deeds. Oh, this is going to be very interesting. But Yumeko, didn't he tell you that he didn't want you to break his curse? Yes, but that may not be the whole truth. He's still reluctant to break his curse despite all the advice I've offered him. Perhaps you will be able to encourage him where I could not. I do not care if he wants to break his curse. I only need him to help me remedy the supposedly bad things I've done to his family. I believe that will be the easiest way to break my curse. But the problem is that I rarely see him here. He's usually at the palace. In order for this arrangement to work, I will need to be in the palace. I, for one, think that's a terrible idea. What if... Dolores' voice trails off. She averts her gaze to the floor, her expression a mixture of anxiety and solemn consideration. What if what? Is there something I should know? Both the witch and the fairy just stare at me silently. After a few moments, Parfait speaks. You would be far away from us, princess. We would not be able to assist you. Witches could be lying in wait for you, knowing that you're the true crown princess of Angel. They might seek to use you for their own purposes. What sorts of purposes? Why would the witches be after me in the first place? Many of them have been corrupted by the Tenebrum. Darkness has invaded their hearts, making them bitter. Many of them simply want to see the fairy tale curses continue on undisturbed. This is all just speculation, but it's better to be safe rather than sorry. What would you have me do? Laura? I have an idea. I think I can get her into the palace and make sure there's someone to look out for her. How? Just trust me. Tomorrow the Ice Princess returns to her palace. I have a bad feeling about this. What is she gonna do? I am a maid. Let's go. This cannot be happening. Don't dilly-dally. The princess will soon be awake and expecting her new maid. I closed my eyes and suppressed the urge to groan. How's it that Laura was able to turn me into Emmy Lane's personal maid? She thought this would be funny, did she? Well, I'll make her pay for this. I expect you not to be late again. We have very strict rules on how the palace staff should behave. I'm not exactly sure how Laura managed this. She told me she was going to cast a spell on me and that it would be over as soon as I opened my eyes. I closed my eyes and sure enough, when I opened them, I found myself here in a maid uniform. What did she do? The maid continues to babble at me. How annoying. I pretend to listen to her as she leads me through the palace hallways. Emmeline and Rod's chambers are located here. Oh! We come to a halt when Emmeline suddenly appears from behind the corner. Your Highness! The maid ducks into a neat curtsy. Emily's eyes meet mine. I tense as I wait for any signs of recognition from her, but she only gives me a curious look as if wondering who I am. She clearly does not recognize me. The maid suddenly reaches back and pulls at my shoulder, forcing me into a bow. You are in front of the Crown Princess of Angel. Show some respect, girl. My apologies, Your Highness. She is new and clearly needs to be taught some manners. Excuse me. Oh, please, there's no need for that. What is he trying to achieve by pretending to be kind to a palace maid? Who is he trying to fool? Your Highness, this is your new personal maid. Emmeline glances at the maid, looking confused. Why do I need a personal maid? It is the king's orders, princess. Emmeline turns to look at me again. What is your name? She's talking to you, girl. I scowl at the maid before facing Emmeline. I cannot believe I have fallen so low that I'm now being ordered around by a maid. Yumeko. It's nice to meet you, Yumeko. I hope we can get along. When I do not respond, Emmeline's face falls. I was just heading to breakfast with my family. Of course, Yumeko will escort you to the dining hall. I raise my eyebrows at the maid, irritated. There's no need for concern. I can get there on my own. I breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not here to babysit her. The maid leans forward and whispers something in my ear. I don't know how it is that you landed this position, but you owe the royal family your diligence and respect. If you continue to show disrespect, I will be having a word with the king. The maid pushes me forward so that I am forced to stand next to Emmeline. She will escort you to the dining hall, your highness. Her job requires that she follow you everywhere in case you require assistance with anything. But it is almost time for breakfast, Princess Emmeline. Emmeline frowns and looks at me. I'm so sorry. What is she apologizing for? Good morning. Good morning. It seems that you've met your personal maid. The king's eyes widens as soon as he spots me. You look familiar. Does he recognize me? I feel a little tremble in my heart as I consider that hope. Are you not the girl who came to the gates before? I deflate with a soundless sigh. He remembers me as a peasant. This is the first time I am meeting you as Emmeline's personal maid. What is your name? Yumeko. That is a lovely name. We're glad to have you here, Yumeko. The king gives me a warm smile. The softness of his gaze makes me angry. He never treated me so kindly when he remembered me as his own daughter. Emmeline takes a seat while I walk to stand at the walls beside the other maids and butlers. The door opens and Rod walks inside. He greets the king, Ophelia, and then his sister. He's just about to take his seat when his eyes suddenly fall on me. The shock is apparent on his face. Rod, is there something wrong? I see there is a new maid on staff. His tone is almost accusatory. Accusatory? I bristle at his words and am about to say something when Ophelia speaks. She's Emmeline's new personal maid, Yumeko. Rod stares at me for a few moments, his expression unreadable. Eventually he moves to take his seat. I stand silent and watch the royal family eat their breakfast. The small area is filled with happy conversation. The four of them smile at each other when they speak, and it is easy to see how comfortable they all are with each other. When I was here, our meals were always so quiet, but everyone looks so happy now. I bite my lip to will the heavy feeling away. Rod told me that before, but I did not want to believe him. I turn back to the conversation at hand. We have something very important to discuss with you, Emmeline. Oh? I have brought this up before, but now the matter is more pressing. Is this about... Yes, this is about the ball. Ophelia gives the king a disapproving look. Dear. I know it seems a strange proposition, but this is royal tradition. Emmeline is at a suitable marrying age, and this ball may yet help her find a suitor. But husband... Emmeline's cheeks are tinted pink. A royal ball for Emmeline. For her to find a husband? I never would have agreed to such a thing. The king never forced me into one because he knew that. I will not force you to marry someone you do not love, Emmeline. We agreed on this ball to uphold tradition. All eligible bachelors will be invited in 4 months' time, and you will choose the man you want to court you. I did find my true love through a ball, after all. He glances at Ophelia, who responds with a fond smile. Her expression falls back into something more worried when she looks at her daughter. But what if I can't choose anyone? We will throw one ball, as per tradition. We will not force you into another ball if you do not find a good suitor, but we must uphold traditions at least once. Perhaps this will push you to think more about the future. I will not put any added pressure on you, Emmeline, but I would be happy to see grandchildren before I give up my throne. I am not getting any younger, you know. Father! I can tell that the Trick King is trying to make light of the situation, but there is an undertone of seriousness. Emmeline eventually sighs, then slowly nods. I understand. My gaze shifts to Rod to search for a reaction, but his expression is impassive. No reaction at all. Did he know this was going to happen? But can I really be the princess of the kingdom of Angel deserves? I feel so unprepared. You are the crown princess of Angel. You must be confident. Emmeline looks down, looking genuinely distressed. I'm finished. May I be excused? But sweetheart, you've barely touched your food. You may. Emmeline stands up and ducks into a quick curtsy before rushing from the room. I do not move until I feel Rod's glare on me. I realise that I am meant to follow Emmeline. Excuse me. I curtsy and follow after Emmeline. I barely make it a few steps from the dining hall before the door flies open and Rod is rushing after me. What are you doing here? Ooh, avoid the question or answer him. Well, I think we should answer him. Or maybe we should avoid him. I don't know. This is hard. Because I feel like answering him would entail us just saying, "Oh, well, I'm only here to break the curse." But if we avoid it, oh man, this is difficult. Let's just answer him honestly. I'm here to break my curse. You expect me to believe that when you had people offering to help at the marching? Rod's expression changes, anger clear in his eyes. No, I know why you're really here. What are you talking about? You thought you might take back what is rightfully yours, didn't you? You have no qualms about hurting my family again. I stared at him, nonplussed by his accusations. I carefully quelled the simmering anger inside me. The last thing I want is to be fired before I break my curse. I'm not here to hurt anyone. Stop accusing me of such things. We glared at each other in silence. I'd always thought that Rod was closed off and quiet, but his emotions are always blazing in his eyes. You shouldn't be here. Rod steps back, but his gaze is still fierce. I do not have time for this. I'm going to find Emmeline. Why? So you can insult her? No, because it is now my job to attend to her. Excuse me. The last place I expected to find Emmeline is in the throne room. Much to my surprise, I find her standing alone inside, staring up at the throne. Oh! When she turns to face me, she has a guilty expression on her face. I'm sorry. What is she apologizing for? I was very rude earlier, walking out on everyone at breakfast. Emmeline gazes back at the throne and sighs. I'm sure any other girl would be happy to have a ball. I mean, it's like something out of a fairy tale. But I... She sighs once again and looks down at her clasped hands. It all sounds so perfect in the fairy tales. 3 days is all it takes before everyone's found their true love. But I don't think that's how it works out in real life. Do you? I have nothing to say in response when Emmeline turns her beseeching gaze to me. I don't know how I'm supposed to marry someone I barely even know. Is this really what it means to be the crown princess? Isn't this precisely what you wanted? Excuse me? When your mother married the king, you became a princess. You went from rags to riches overnight. I cannot keep the bitterness from my voice when I speak. Your life is playing out like Cinderella's, is it not? All you are missing are the glass slippers, and even then I am sure the king could arrange for a pair. I cannot understand why you are so unhappy. Neither can I. Emmeline turns away from me once again to face the throne, and in the sun that streams through the windows I see something shine on her cheeks. Is she crying? I am so ungrateful. Yumeko, what would you do? What? If you were in my place, if you became Crown Princess overnight, would you go through with the ball? For the sake of Angel's tradition, for the sake of your role? I would never do anything so worthless. The king never brought up the subject with me. He most likely knew I would have refused. Emmeline suddenly pats her cheeks and turns to me, a wry smile on her face. I could do with some fresh air. Shall we go to my friend's shop in town? We have only just exited the throne room when Emmeline stops short and I almost bump into her back. Oh! Your Highness, what a pleasant... Sir Maithros abruptly stops to stare at me. Why is Sir Maithros looking at me so intently? Is something the matter, Sir Maithros? No, nothing at all, Your Highness. I'm just... amused. Amused? Oh, you haven't met my new maid. This is Yumeko. Yumeko? There is something in Sir Maithros' gaze that I do not trust. The silence is stifling, so I curtsy at him. Sir? Charming. Sir Maithros turns his attention back to Emmeline. Where are you off to on this pleasant day? Oh, just off to visit a friend. Make sure you bring your guards with you, Princess. Of course. I wonder what's taking him so long. Emmeline decided to invite Rod to join us on her visit. One of the guards offered to get Rod for her, but has still yet to return. Another stands with us by the gates, ready to escort us into town. Why does the king even keep these incompetent fools if they cannot find a single person? Maybe we should go look for Rod. But then, what if he gets here as soon as we go searching for him? I sigh. I will go look for him. You can stay here. But you don't need to run errands for me. She's yet to ask me to do anything. Why does she think a maid? What does she think a maid even does? I look at her solemnly. Excuse me. Not answering her. Finally, she relents. Thank you, Yumeko. I inclined my head just slightly before walking off. I feel like a babysitter. I cannot believe I have to search for Rod. This is only slightly better than being dragged around by that broom. I turn around the corner and nearly bump into someone. I take a few steps back just in time. Princess? I look up in shock. Fritz's surprise mirrors my own. Where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere. He pauses to stare at my clothing. Why are you wearing a maid's uniform? Fritz, you remember who I am? I would never forget you, Princess Yumeko. But it does seem that I am the only person who remembers you. What's going on, Princess? The only people who remember me are witches, fairies, and... Fritz, are you... I stop when I hear the sound of approaching footsteps. Fritz turns at the sound and then stoops low into a formal bow when he sees Rod. Your Highness. Rod's impassive face twists with annoyance when he sees me. Rod does not even acknowledge Fritz as he walks past him to stop in front of me. Shouldn't you be attending to my sister? I don't understand. Prince Rod, do you know why the princess is dressed like this? Rod is clearly just as surprised as I am that Fritz remembers me. You recognize her? You remember the princess too. But if you knew, why didn't she say anything when she first went missing? And can someone explain to me why she's attending Princess Emmeline? This is... Fritz. I cut him off before he can ask any more questions. I feel Rod's gaze on my back as I turn to look at Fritz. No more questions. But Princess, right now I am a palace maid. Oh, what? It is a long story, and I have no time to explain now, so do not ask. Fritz is clearly discontent. He seems to struggle for a few moments before he finally sighs and nods. Yes, Your Highness. Though it is nice to hear someone here speak my title, it will not do if Fritz calls me that on accident. It is just Yumeko for now. But I turned to face Rod. Emmeline is waiting. What? The guard could not even deliver her message. Where are you going? Emmeline wants to visit a friend's shop in town, and she wants you to go with us, Rod. Town? Ordinarily, I would not mind Fritz joining us, but right now he might just be an unnecessary company. He may very well give me away. Rod barely wants to speak with me when it is just the two of us. I doubt Fritz would make him more sociable. I am assuming that accompanying you is not an option at this point. Yes. Fritz looks down for a moment before looking at Rod. I'm sorry to ask this of you, Your Highness, but since she refuses to let me do so, please look after Princess Yumeko in my place. Ridiculous. I do not need to be coddled. Even if I did, Rod couldn't care less if I'm hurt. I will do my best, Sir Fitzgerald. I cannot tell if he's being genuine or not. Fritz bows to the both of us. Stay safe, Prince Yumeko. And you, Your Highness. Rod turns and begins to walk away without another word. Come on. Rod is silent as we make our way back to the palace gates. I'm sure I'm still thinking about what he said to Fritz earlier. Why would Rod agree to Fritz's request? Because he just wanted him to leave. I stare at Rod's back as he walks in front of me. Sometimes I cannot figure out what he's thinking. Rod, Yumeko! Emmeline beams when she catches sight of us. Are you ready? Rod crosses his arms. He does not look very happy with his sister. Even though Rod is younger, I cannot help but think that he often sounds like the older of the two. I am busy, Emmeline. I can't keep dropping everything whenever you want to leave the palace. I'm sorry, but I just really needed some fresh air today. You can get plenty of fresh air on the palace grounds. I felt I needed to be off the palace grounds. Emmeline's face drops as she looks down at the ground. Rod lets out an exasperated sigh before stepping inside the carriage. Come on. Rod? Just for an hour, okay? Thank you. I soon come to realize that it is easier to walk around town now that everyone has forgotten who I am. The atmosphere around town feels brighter. All the spiteful stares are gone. Princess Emmeline! Oh, how are you doing? Is your wife feeling better? Emmeline has responded to most of the people who know her. She seems to know a good majority of the people in town. I hang back as Emmeline speaks with the young man. The night escort hovers somewhere nearby, watching for disturbances. We're going to take longer than an hour if she continues like this. I'm not going to rush her. Don't you need to return to the palace to continue whatever work it is that you are doing? Rod raises an eyebrow at me. I do have to get back to my studies, but my family always comes first. If this makes Emmeline happy, then I will gladly come with her to town. It's a small thing. Happy? I look more closely at Emmeline. She is smiling, but then she always smiles. I do not understand. She's more at ease talking to the townspeople sometimes because they do not judge her. Why would she have to worry about being judged? It is clear that everyone adores her. Emmeline takes the man's hand in hers as she wishes them well. Rhodes points out the gesture. See that? That's goodness. You could learn something from my sister Yumeko. Is goodness pretending to be interested in the lives of strangers? Emmeline eventually says her goodbyes before walking towards a familiar store. This is the toy shop I visited with Emmeline and Rod before. I glance at Rod and notice the expression on his face. He seems conflicted. But why? But before I can ask, Rod marches in front of me and decisively pushes open the door. When I enter, Emmeline is already hugging the shop girl Viorica. Emmeline, you look as beautiful as ever today. Oh please, I look the same. You, on the other hand. Emmeline steps back before nodding, a bright smile on her face. Being in love suits you. When is the wedding? Wedding? She's already engaged.